Hey, special educators. Welcome to Teach, Taskbox, Inspire, the podcast dedicated to making your job as a special education teacher easier by making your instruction more fun for you and your students. Inside each episode, you'll learn how to get the most use out of your task boxes in the classroom. I'm your host, Lisa Holliday from Chalkboard Superhero, a veteran special education teacher passionate about empowering you with purposeful teaching strategies, helpful tips and tricks, and other classroom management tools that will help you thrive in your role. Let's get started with today's episode. Hey there, special education teachers, and welcome back to another episode of Teach, Taskbox, Inspire. I'm your host, Lisa Holliday, and today's episode is one that hits hard this time of year, especially of those of us working with students who thrive on routine, familiarity, and structure. Yep, we're talking all about transitions. Specifically, how do we help our students transition to summer, or to new classrooms, or to a new school or a building, or to even teachers without meltdowns, regression, or really full-on tears? And hey, let's be honest, not just the kids' tears, our tears too. Because if you're anything like me, the end of the year can get emotional. You spent months building trust, connection, and progress with these kids. And now it's time to say goodbye, shift routines, and face the unknown. Whew, that's a lot. So today I'm walking you through how I approach transitions in a way that's gentle, gradual, and actually helps our students build the confidence and independence they need to move forward, without the stress and chaos that can come with sudden change. I want to get into it, but I do want to say there's a little caveat. Yes, of course, you may have students this year who you can't wait to get rid of. To be fair, let's just talk about all the tears and kids that we will actually miss. So why are transitions so hard and really so important? Let's start with the truth. Change is hard for everyone, but for our students, especially those with disabilities like anxiety or trauma histories or even autism, change can feel like a threat. The end of the year brings a lot of change. New teachers, different classmates, unpredictable summer routines, if they even have a routine, leaving a para or one-to-one support that they've worked with all year, changing buildings completely. Hello, moving from elementary to middle school. Even things we adults think are small, like a new lunch table or a different hallway, can feel overwhelming. That's why prepping students for transitions can be an afterthought. It has to be something we build into our routines starting now. So by the time that last week rolls around, they're not being thrown into the deep end. So the first thing that you want to do is start the conversation early and repeat it often. One of the biggest mistakes we make as educators is waiting too long to talk about transitions. I get it, we're busy. The to-do list in May is no joke, and it's almost June, but our students need time to process transitions. One conversation won't cut it, and so here's kind of what I do. I know this is out a little bit late, but I want you to start beginning conversations in early May. You might start by saying something like, this is our last month together. In a few weeks, you're going to have a new teacher, or in a few months, you're going to have a new building. You can use visuals and countdowns. Kind of put a calendar on the wall with a clear visual of how many school days are left. Use stickers or Velcro to let students kind of mark off each day. We've kind of touched on this on a few episodes back that I'll link in the show notes, but it really, really helps to get students prepared. And I want you to practice it daily. During morning meetings or closing a circle, review what's coming up. Repeat, repeat, repeat. I had a student last year who would instantly shut down when he heard the word summer. So we reframed it. Instead of saying school is ending, we said, you're graduating from class. We celebrated his growth while preparing him for what was next. That little mindset shift made all the difference, especially if it's as easy as switching a few words. Now, sometimes you're going to have paraprofessionals who will absolutely roll their eyes or be annoyed with this type of mindset shift or verbal language shift, but it is really important to tell them the why. Once you tell them the why this works or why they have anxiety over the word quote unquote summer, then they might be a little bit more on board and on the same page in changing their mindset shift. All right. The next step is to use social stories and visual supports. I love me a good social story. Social stories are just simple narratives that kind of walk students through kind of what's going to happen and how they can respond. They help reduce anxiety by giving structure to the unknown. And a little side note here, when you write social stories, please, please, please put it in the child's perspective. Do not say, you're going to do this, you're going to do that, you're going to go down the... You don't want to say you throughout the story. This social story is going to use the pronoun I. So if Johnny's reading it, it will say, I can take a break. I can ask questions. It's okay to feel nervous. All of these things, because you are kind of creating this dialogue in their head that they will put on repeat over and over and over. Writing one about transition, it can kind of look like what will change. Next year, I will be in a new classroom. What will stay the same? I will take the bus and I will see my friends. Or it might be like how to cope. It's okay to feel nervous. I can ask my teacher questions. I can go into the small room for a break, or however you're going to word it. Pro tip, include real photos of the new classroom, new teacher, or building if you have them. I know this is going the extra mile, but if you have them on hand, absolutely use real photos and then read the story often. This lets students really focus in on kind of understanding where they're going and helps them calm down. You can even let students color in pages, keep a copy in their folder, or bring one home to read with families. The more you can get families on board with these transitions, the better. All right, step 3, visit the new environment if possible. This one is a game changer if you can swing it. So I want you to try to work with the team to set up transition visits. Let students go see where they're going to be next year. Meet the teacher, tour the classroom, check out the lunchroom or playground, look at the lockers. The goal is to expose them without the pressure. So here are some ideas. You can schedule short pop-ins to next year's classroom. You can do joint activities with the next year's teacher. You can have the new teacher read a book to your class. And that could be simple. If she doesn't have the time, she can record a video and you can play it on your smartboard so that the students can see who their new teacher is. You can even create a quote-unquote virtual tour with photos or videos if visits aren't possible so they can see where they're going. This really helps students build familiarity and that builds confidence. All right, step 4. I want you to reflect on the year and celebrate growth. Saying goodbye is really hard, but when we focus on celebrating instead of mourning, it helps students transition with pride. Some easy ideas are create a look how I've grown chart, or do a memory book with simple prompts. And it doesn't have to be Pinterest worthy, but you can say things like, this year I learned blank. My favorite thing about school was blank, or next year I hope to blank. Or you can even host, I've done this in the past, a low pressure graduation celebration, even if it's just with your para or your paras and a few other students. So I had a student who was absolutely terrified of leaving our classroom because we had had him for 6 years until we made him teacher for a day in his last week. He got to lead the routine, wear a special badge, pass out snacks. It gave him a sense of closure and power. And you better believe we all cried on that last day, but they were proud tears. All right, so step 5 is supporting the parents too. And you guys, if you're a brand new listener, you know, or you may not know that I am also a parent of a special needs child. My son, Jacob, he is going to be 10 years old this year and he has Down syndrome. So I am always trying to advocate for the parents too. So this part is often overlooked, but it's just as important. Parents are anxious about transitions too. You better believe it. So we're thinking, will the new teacher get my child? Will the supports be there? Will my kid be safe? And here's how you can help parents like me. You can send home that transition social story that you created. You can include photos and info about the next classroom that's coming up for that student. You can reassure them that you're working with the next team about that student. Also, you can share what's worked this year, behavior strategies, reinforcers, sensory preferences, with that parent so that they can use those strategies over summer. If it's possible, schedule a short chat or email with the next year's teacher. It doesn't have to be formal, just a handoff so they're not starting from scratch. All right, step 6, and this is the last step. Take care of you. I preach this all of the time. Transitions are emotional for us too. You've worked so hard with these kids. You've taught, guided, advocated, loved them fiercely, and now it's time to let them go. That's hard, and it's okay to feel that. Make space to grieve, reflect, and celebrate yourself too. You helped them grow. You were their safe person. You made a difference. And no matter where they go next, you'll always be part of their story. So, to wrap up, helping students transition well is about building a bridge, not flipping a switch. It's all about preparing them, supporting them, and empowering them to feel capable and safe as they move on. When your students are moving to a new grade, a new school, or just heading into a summer full of unknowns, you have the tools to help them walk into that change with courage. And if a few tears come with it, that's okay too. It just means it mattered. Thank you so much for everything you do to make transitions smoother, safer, and more empowering for your students. I really hope this episode was helpful. Until next time, guys, bye-bye. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Teach, Taskbox, Inspire. I hope you've gained some tips and motivation to fuel your week ahead. If you're ready to explore more strategies for empowering your students as independent learners, be sure to dive into my free training at chalkboardsuperhero.com/training. And don't keep all this knowledge to yourself. Share this episode with your special education teacher friends who could use some motivation and inspiration. One more thing before you go. If you're finding this podcast helpful and want to show support, head to Apple Podcasts and leave your rating and review. Until next time, keep teaching, taskboxing, and inspiring.